Hello and welcome to the Mixtapes podcast. I'm your co-host Nikki, joined by my co-host Amber. Hey Amber.
Hey Nikki.
And today we're so excited to welcome two important guests in my heart, my auntie and my uncle. So my Tio Glenn and Titi Gary. Hello, welcome.
Hello. Hi, Amber. Hi, Nikki.
Hi y'all.
Oh, we're so glad to have you on the podcast. And actually, fun fact, when Amber and I were brainstorming what this was going to be like to start a podcast together, and we were brainstorming guests, I was like, oh, don't worry, Amber. Everyone in my family is in an interracial marriage.
I was thinking the same thing. I'm like, I don't think we're special. I think she's got a lot of choices here. Everybody is. Yeah.
So welcome. Something that we do here on the Mixtapes is we start every episode by sharing a something good. So a something good could be something that is currently good that's happening in your world right now, or it can be something that you're looking forward to. So Amber, what's your something good?
Something good is that I just closed out my second year as a school administrator, and I'm feeling really good about that. I'm looking forward to year 3 because I feel like, I don't know, I learned so many lessons in the first 2 years, and I have like a lot more confidence going into my third year. And I feel like once you do something, so long, like a couple of years under your belt, you feel more confident, you feel ready to go. So that's my something good right now. What about you?
Congratulations!
Great.
Yay! And you did a great job, by the way.
Thank you.
So that's awesome. What a great something good. Tio and TT, what is your something goods?
We're currently celebrating our anniversary. It's tomorrow, but we've been celebrating it for half a week already. We went to the movies yesterday. We had dinner out. We went to a couple of tours this week. So we're very excited about that. It's our 13th year married and our 23 years together.
Wow.
So we're very excited about it. We made it.
That's amazing. That's amazing.
Every day is a day.
Congratulations. That's
Thank
a huge anniversary. 23 years. Wow.
Together.
Yeah, that's
23 years
beautiful.
together.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. 23.
His daughter told me I need a little crown now.
You do. A queen crown.
Go ahead, honey. What's yours?
Oh, I thought that was ours. Well,
No.
Mine's, Nikki, what we were just talking about, it's going to be Sana, my granddaughter, being healthy and born about 2 weeks ago now, right? The 23rd?
24th, May 24th. May 24th.
Right. I bet on exact dates.
She was born Memorial Weekend, right? That was Memorial Day weekend.
Yeah.
Saturday Memorial Day weekend.
Mhm.
Awesome.
That's my third granddaughter.
Congratulations.
Happy to have another addition to the family. So yeah, that's good stuff.
Congratulations. That's huge.
Yeah.
That's huge.
Yes, it is.
And 3 girls. What a blessing. We were also joking, Amber, earlier that we love girls.
Are there lots of girls on your side of the family?
Uh-huh. Pretty much everyone. There's a small population of boys.
I was pulling for a boy, ain't gonna lie.
He wanted a boy. Yeah.
I need a boy. I really need a male in the family somehow, some way.
Yeah, that's fair.
All I got is the dog.
The dog.
He's questionable.
The dog, Chico.
Chico is a boy.
Chico is a boy. Well, congratulations, you guys. Lots to celebrate. And on my end, another celebration is that our babies graduated this past Friday. So we had 33 little graduates going into the real world. And that always feels really good. My school does a tradition where each student gives a speech at graduation, each and every one of them do, and hearing their reflecting on the last, some kids, we had a couple students, 2 seniors who were only with us for a year. And it's crazy just how transformative that 1 year was for them. And I love our kids and they're going to be so important in this world that we live in. So that's why something good.
Okay.
Nice.
On to bigger and better things, but you got a solid foundation. That's a good thing.
Yeah, absolutely. And excited for them to all come back and say how much they miss us. I'm glad that we have so much to celebrate here together on this call. So that's awesome. And we will jump right in because We are the Mixtapes, and we're really passionate about telling stories of interracial couples and biracial people, mixed race people, because our society gets more and more diverse as the days go by. And so why not talk about it? So we're just going to jump in.
Okay. How do you both identify racially? And are there other parts of your identity that you feel are important and worth mentioning?
As a Dominican, I always call myself a mestiza, which is a mixture of Indian, Black, and white Spaniards. So I'm a mestiza. So when people start asking me, what's your race? I say mestiza, and then they look at me blank. I'm like, well, go learn your history. But that's what I am. I am a mestiza. I have a little bit of everybody in me, as most Dominicans do.
So true story. This is as Gary mentioned last night. We went to the movies. We were the last people on the planet, I think, to see the movie Sinners. We finally got to see it yesterday. But anyway, pretty good movie. Anyway, so we're walking into the theater, and Nikki, you may remember the Spectrum Theater on Delaware. It's
Yeah, I do.
a neighborhood theater, so this isn't like you're going into a mall. You got to walk on the street to get to the theater. So we're walking in, and there's one person on the street looking at the boards, looking to see what movies are out there. And all of a sudden, she turns around with this huge smile on her face, like, "Oh my God, how long have you people been married? How long have you two been married?" Nikki, you know me. I'm extremely reserved.
Shy.
I'm not shy. I hold things close to my best. Just do. And
You're an introvert.
Who are you? Why you want my information? And what are you going to do with it? So anyway, so she comes. But I say I don't know. I'm not sure. Then she asks her when Gary mentions, well, we've been together 23 years. That's not really the part of the story. The next question is, what race are you to Gary?
What?
That's a Black woman. It's a Black woman. I'm about 28, 30. Just randomly just says, "What race are you?" To which Gary, so it's kind of funny that was your first question as well. Not that we're putting you in the same category, Amber, but it was just kind of hilarious. It's like, "What race are you?" To which she paused, and it's just like, "Why is that in your business?"
No, I said, why are you asking?
Why are you asking? Okay.
I said, why are you asking? Because I found it first of all, now with everything that's going on, I'm like, why are you asking?
Right.
Who's on the cars around me? And she goes, no, you're such a beautiful person, couple, and I just wanted to know where you're from. So I told her, I'm a mestiza. And then we walked into the movie theater. We just left it like that, right?
Right. You said you're Dominican.
Oh, I said Dominican.
Right,
I did say
Dominican. Because mestizas, you had no idea.
Right.
She would not have known that.
Right,
but it was kind of interesting that, it's kind of like first thing, somebody who literally just met us on the street
wants to know.
Right.
Yeah.
And to your opening point, I mean, 30, 40 years ago, being an interracial couple might have been like, oh, that's different. Now it's kind of like, if you're not interracial, what's wrong with you? So it's kind of interesting that somebody reacted that way to something like, you see this every day. What's the big, at least the way I feel about it. But anyway, so getting back to you, I'm sorry, you can edit that out. So feel free. But that's the time to share that because I thought it was kind of on point. Like,
no, it's totally on point. I'm like stuck on it because I'm like, how is that? Yeah, like,
yeah. I mean, it's
that was
happening.
Why are you asking?
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Well, anyway, but to your question, Amber, back on track. Sorry about the diversion.
It's okay.
I identify as Black, Jamaican heritage, but grew up in the States. So Black, African American, Caribbean American, any of those terms I'm totally fine with. Obviously, I present as Black. Yeah, that's kind of, that's it. That's it.
Yeah. I appreciate y'all sharing that story with us because it's like so spot on. Like that's like freaking me out. I'm like, what are the chances that yesterday you would have gotten that question?
At 6:45, if you want exact. It happened at 7:45. We were
Gotta go look at the astrology for that. Yeah, like what? That's so random. And it's interesting too. My first reaction, it was like once Glenn said like, oh, she was a Black woman, I was like, oh, okay, whatever. But like for some reason I was heightened for a second. I was like, who's asking you?
Right, it could have been the other way, but it's funny how we would have taken it. You're right. If it was
like, if she was
a little weird, even with somebody, a Black person asking me that. But if it happened to be a Caucasian asking me that, it would definitely be.
Yeah, you worry. You worry nowadays. You
Oh, I
worry.
wouldn't have worried. I would have just
Well,
cursed them out.
when I'm
But
with you,
anyway,
I'm okay. But if sometimes you walk in, I mean, you can't even speak Spanish nowadays because people are questioning if you're immigrant or, where were you born?
Yeah. Next reminder to myself, there could be black ICE agents too. So
No,
maybe
definitely.
I shouldn't have
right,
written her off.
right.
Right.
Yeah. And like the second you open your mouth, you sound like
Right.
you sound Latino. So you're going to get that. Wow.
hmm
As a matter of fact, that happened to us years and years ago. I don't know if Glenn remembers this, but we were in Saratoga and we were shopping at the outlets, and I was with him, and these ladies just kept on giving me dirty looks, dirty looks. And then when I spoke, they had a sign of relief that I wasn't white. It's okay. It was like that's what I took out of that, and I still remember that. So you can tell it's painful, but it was like 22 years ago, 21 years ago. But I remember having that feeling in that moment that they were like, they were judging me because I was with him.
I think we definitely want to keep your story in, and thank you for bringing it up and then even when you said it was a black woman, I still felt heightened because in my experience, Gwen, when I went to college, people would and I was at a HBCU, they would stop me walking down the street because I was talking to my friends, and they would say with the way I looked, they would say, "Where are you from? Are you from Africa? Are you from?" I'm like, "No, I'm from the United States," but they were trying to convince me that I was from somewhere else because of how I looked and how I spoke. And I was like, "No, I'm from Colorado." And then then I had to go into all that, and then they were like, "Well, you were born somewhere else." And I'm like, "No, I really was born in the United States." I think it is an invasive question, and I wouldn't typically ask people what their racial identity is except for the sake of our podcast. I like for people to share that with me, out and about, but we're trying to obviously hear your stories and share, your racial identity for the sake of acknowledging that you all are in an interracial relationship. But I would not have walked up to a couple at the movie theater and said, "What's your racial identity?" I wouldn't do that, so
Right. There's different levels of bold, or
yeah.
I'm gonna call it bold and not ignorance, but there's different levels of it, and yeah, that's
What race are you?
right.
That was like,
Yeah, instead of where you're from, or
not where you're from, because people do say that, where you're
right.
from, a lot of people think I'm Puerto Rican. Are you Puerto Rican? No, no, I'm Dominican, so but it's like a lot of, you don't see that somebody asking you your race, it's like, unless it's a form, unless you're filling out a form.
Yeah. Even earlier when you mentioned you identify as mestiza, that whole conversation too, I feel like we've been talking about on the podcast, especially when we had Clay and Leslie on here. We were talking about what does it mean to be Dominican? Dominican is not a racial group, it's a country, right? So within that nationality, there's so many different people of different colors. We come in all shades. And so it's interesting. And there's a newer recognition of Latino being a race, a racial
Yeah.
category, but that's brand new. That's
That
only
format, the form I just filled out is asking race and it had Latino in it. Latino, Hispanic, Latino. That's not a race.
I do think it is, but that's my hot take. But I just think it's interesting that the discourse it's changed so much though. There's a new category that wasn't there before. So, and I always feel like that's how I explain it. Because I always get that you don't look Dominican, and then I'm like, well, I am biracial. First of all, we'll start there. But secondly, what do you think Dominicans look like? Because it's such a mixture of indigenous ancestry, African heritage, and Spanish/Portuguese. So that's kind of an interesting conversation too. But anyway, I appreciate y'all for sharing that story with us because it's pretty on the nose. And so I'm curious, and it's interesting because I feel like I don't even know much of this. I know something about you guys meeting online. So tell us your love story. That's what we want to know. How'd you fall in love?
So your Uncle Juan made me do this whole bio online, right? What was it, friend? What was it, friend?
I don't know whatever, but whatever the site.
One of those sites, and we listed the people that I liked, right? That I would like and that I wouldn't like, and that kind
Oh,
of
that's
stuff.
right. Yeah, I forgot
Right.
about that. That's right.
So
Yeah,
then
yeah.
I get this text. What's wrong with us brothers?
I didn't say it that
or
way.
something like that.
I didn't say it anyway like that.
How do you say it?
I said, oh, so you're not interested in black men?
No, it's not something brothers.
I didn't say anything about
Oh,
brothers.
okay, black men. Okay, so
No,
maybe
it
black.
was-
So it was black men. So what's wrong with black men? I said, oh no, black men are my favorite. And he goes, you didn't list that. I
She had
said,
checked
really?
off all her boxes.
I didn't list.
She checked white like 4 times,
No.
but didn't check black.
Did it have that breakdown? I'm curious
did
because you know I'm on all the dating apps
I
right now.
I did not.
Did it have a breakdown back
I
then
know.
where you would have to click which
Yeah,
race?
you have to say what race you want.
Oh, wow.
Didn't want. So then, I did have my.
Well, it wasn't. They didn't say. Well,
I'm not
it
going to
was
mention the
by omission. It's omission thing. You check
Right.
off what you're interested in. The other ones. That's why I asked.
And
Not
I
like-
said, no, on the contrary, black men were always my favorite, And he goes, and then we connected and we decided to go for lunch at TGI Friday.
Yep, that's right.
And that part is right. So we in the parking lot. I parked. He parked. I saw this black man with a gray suit and a nice. I think it was blue with something yellow or something. And I'm like, oh, I hope it's him. So then we walk inside, and my phone rang, and he was him that he was calling. Dad, right?
Yeah, no, you're right.
I'm here.
Because
here.
I was there before you, and I was just like, yeah.
I'm here, and I'm like, damn, it's
Okay, Sue.
so I like that. Well, he was a banker at that point, so it was nice. I liked. I like the suits.
But got to your point. That is how we met, and every time I've always dated everybody, anybody. I just my entire life was kind of like that.
He was an equal opportunity.
Well, yeah, I mean, women are beautiful of all races, so it's just like, hey, as long as you look good, we're good. Okay, and you look fantastic. So that worked. That got to have that initial attraction, and the initial attraction definitely was there. And but the more I got to know Gary and had to get over the problem of Gary being named Gary and explaining to my friends that I'm dating someone named Gary, and my friends are kind of like, Glenn, we didn't know you were like that. No, it's not. But I'm sorry. Again, I went off on a tangent.
Yeah,
but
that's true. That happened.
outside of that, Gary is and was at that time and still is the warmest human being I've ever met outside of my mom. My mom was even better. She was, but it was amazing meeting somebody that was that close.
Yeah.
To being that just loving of a person, which I'm not, so I kind of need that in my life to kind of get into the yin and yang thing. I need somebody, so that's really, really what kind of clinched it for me. Was her true love of fellow human beings. It was, yeah. You're welcome.
So that's how we met. And then after that, we've been together ever since. We never had anything like, if people break up and get back together. No, we never had that.
Remember that 5 minutes?
Which
No,
on the phone, 5 minutes away. But we've been together ever since.
Yeah, we made it work. Yeah,
I love that. That's beautiful. So 23 years ago. So I'm sure at least 23 years ago, I can think I was definitely in my early 20s. And oh, sorry, I have a little guy in the background. So I'm going to ask this question and then I'm going to mute myself. 23 years ago, I definitely didn't see a lot of interracial couples. Did you all face any challenges in your relationship due to your racial identities? Did you have a lot of questioning? Because you normally see Black and white couples, that are interracial, but did you all face any challenges within that? And then, sorry, I'm going to mute.
So, I mean, Gary mentioned one situation that she remembered. I didn't remember, but I can understand why. That's the way she felt about it. So, for me, I can't say there were any. The challenges for me were a little different. The only challenges that were different for me were her family, because I envisioned Dominican, and this gets back to stuff that Nikki was just saying, and then maybe I'll be honest, I have stereotypes, prejudices, in the word prejudging, not in a negative way, but there are certain things that I think. So when she told me she was Dominican, first of all, I didn't think she would be that fair-skinned and Dominican. But as she told me about her family and things like that, it was just like, oh, okay, there's folks that have a little more melanin in them that are in her family as well. So, that I didn't think it would be a big deal. But it was kind of shocking to me, and something I had to learn about, how much the prejudices that are within the Dominican culture over race. Just ignorant about it. And I shouldn't have been, because even being African American, we have the same issue where you're dark, you're brown, you're lighter, that sort of thing. And maybe you start stereotyping and categorizing people based on their complexion. So maybe I shouldn't have been so shocked that that was a thing in her family, but that was a thing. I don't know that it still is for me. Her family now kind of like either doesn't like me or loves me, which is fine. That's only acceptable.
But it's not
But
because of
because
race.
it's not a race. It's just because I can be a jerk,
Uh-huh.
and some of them don't like it, and I can be a jerk, and some of them kind of like, that's actually kind of cool. So yeah,
Mhm.
now it's not, now that they know me, I don't think they're judging me because of my race. Where initially I think folks in her family were kind of hesitant because of my complexion. At least that's the way I felt.
And
But as far as just society at large, I mean, being African American in upstate New York, um, and I don't know, Amber, how long you've been in Denver, but if you've been in Colorado for any length of time, is that where you grew up, Colorado? You mentioned it earlier. Okay, so I'm gonna haven't been out there, but I'm gonna go out on a limb and say it's probably somewhat similar, in that anytime I walk into a room, chances are I'm probably going to be the only person that has my complexion in it. So the social aspects of walking in, because anytime I'm at a room, I'm there. So walking in with Gary, I can't really say I saw anything substantially different. It would just be, again, it would be stares, but I think it'd be stares like, why are you here? And then usually for Gary, once they hear her accent, to her point, then it's just like, why are you here? Because, that sort of thing, because it's just not what most of the folks are used to dealing with. But, they get over it, or they don't.
so for me, I think it was more cultural than the color of his skin. Because personally, because my father was very Dominican black, but my mom, they won't call him that because it's not, it's moreno, it's like a darker color, but he is actually black. Okay, his family came from Morocco, so he's definitely, we had that African in us. My mother married black. She's very light skinned. My mother is like he says, that my side of the family, the Dominguez, are light skin, light hair, light brown hair. So my mother really married. She lived that but it wasn't back then in Dominican Republic. It was not a color system. It was a class system. So my father came from high class because all his family was professionals, and my mother was the same way. All her family were business people and professionals and all that, so they could marry fine, no problem. It was the same class. But now it has turned more Americanized when it says the color of your skin. But that's really an influence from America that we got. But before it wasn't like that. It was really a class system. You didn't marry the rich, the middle class marry the middle class, and the poor marry the poor. And that's it. There was no like, you got out of that, then you have problems. But for me was the Jamaican versus Dominican. I think tradition, they're very, Jamaicans are like, they tell you as it is. This is it, and there's no color coding, there's no sweetness. And at the beginning, that was shocking for me. Like, oh, maybe they don't like me. Like his sister, one time I remember, and this was like, I know it wasn't like that. We had just gotten to the party, and she's like, "You guys better leave early because there's gonna be a snow." And I had just walked into the party, and I'm like, "Okay, she doesn't want us here." That was my impression, because we're not like that. We're like, okay, come on, it might snow, but you're gonna sleep over and you're gonna hang out, and we'll hang out, and it doesn't matter. But no, she was warning me to leave early already, and I had just walked in. So it was like that kind of little cultural things that you think that are a little different. But But I don't think the race factor was, because I remember I was still in my 40s when I met Glenn, and my mother telling me, and she could be prejudiced. My mother, she'll talk about dark skin versus, but she told me, "Oh, he's so handsome. You're gonna make really pretty babies." And I'm like, "No, we're not making babies. I got two, he got one. We're not making babies." But that was her take on it. That was the only comment I ever heard from my mother, that we were going to make pretty babies. And I'm like, oh, okay. So I didn't think she had a problem. And then my brothers and sisters, I never felt that they had a problem with them, or my cousins, personality wise. Yes, they clash, because he's a strong personality, and and he'll walk into a party because he's like that. He'll ignore everybody for a little bit, and then he gets warm up and talks to people. But Spanish people are not like that. You can't ignore people. So it's like a big deal. So that's, again, cultural more than race. It's nothing to do with his race.
It's so interesting hearing both of you talk about the experiences firsthand, because things are clicking in my head from when I was a kid, seeing you guys. Something I remember so clearly, and well, we're all aware about the beef between one of my parents. We don't need to bring that up on the podcast, but it is interesting because it's making me think about how something I would always hear from my mom about Glenn is like, oh, he's the only angry Jamaican I've ever met, or something. That's something she used to say a lot. And I remember being like I didn't know. And as I've gotten older, it's so interesting because hearing you too, TT, say that we, like Hispanic people, Latinos in general, there's this overwhelming pressure to be so nice all the time. And it's almost like a subservience level of what can I provide for you? How can I give you food or
that's what
music
would
or
happen.
culture, or whatever it is? How can I cater to you? And Jamaicans don't have that. And I feel like that's such a strength. The ability to exist as your full self and to be blunt and to say things as they are and not worry if you're offending someone. And I feel like Caribbean people in general, there's a level of hospitality that is so beautiful and amazing that I see in Jamaicans too. But it's like, I'm going to give you all those things, but I'm still going to tell you when you're wrong. And we don't do that. And it's interesting because it's something that I think we should do more of, actually. And there's so much discourse about Latinos right now of okay, if you're going to deport them all, who's going to clean your toilet, or who's going to educate your kids, and blah blah blah. And whenever I hear that, it kind of pisses me off, because it's can't we just be enough for existing? Why do we have to give you something to be worthy of existing? And so it's interesting because I feel like that's something that I admire about you, Tio Glenn, is that you're just yourself and you don't really give a shit. And I want to be more like that. Because that's power. It's actually really super powerful if you think about it, instead of trying to cater to someone else. And yeah, I mean, it's even
I don't recommend that for everybody, Nikki. I really appreciate that you as you've grown, you see that, and it's just it's not but I don't recommend it for everybody. I really don't. There's something about giving being warm and giving people an opportunity and things like that, because I've missed opportunities in my life by not doing that. So I wouldn't necessarily recommend that. It's the thing, but that's just me. I'm kind of I put a fence up, and it's just I'm not going to let you in until I think but so yeah.
Can I
don't
say
strive for that, Nikki. Don't strive for that.
But I do want to say that that's one of the things that I have coached my family over and over again, and they don't listen, because my family doesn't listen. They do whatever they want. So I have coached him. Let him walk in, let him relax, and he's going to be fine. But you're all, as soon as he walks in, on his face, it gets him tense, and he just walks away. And I have told him that over and over. Even like my mother today, to this day, she gets on the car. Hello, Glenn. But it's because he hasn't said hello to her first. But she's getting in the car. She hasn't even sat in the car, and she's going, hello, Glenn. But it's just, and it's 23 years later, so it's still the same. It's still the same. So it's just a personality thing. Like you said, our family is very overwhelming. We all want to do at the same time, and we all want to talk at the same time.
Yeah. And there's probably a reality in which there's a middle between the two of you, and it's nuanced, right? And like, you
Right,
can
exactly.
be both, and you can be warm and welcoming, but also direct and like serious. And so, but that's just so interesting to me. And even like thinking about my grandmother, who I love to death, but you know, I agree, she's problematic when it comes to racial things. I will say that. And it's interesting because hearing you say, like, because I remember looking at pictures of uh, your guys' dad. Obviously, I never met him, but looking at pictures of him and thinking, like, wow, like he looks black to me. Like, I think he's black. And even, some of my
Black and
aunties,
vegan.
yeah, even like the color range between like the siblings, like you and my mom and like Titi and like our tios, like there is so much range in that. Like, do a family picture, the six of you guys, and
Yeah.
no one looks the same race. Like, everyone looks so different. And so it's like, it's so interesting. And I think that's a conversation that we have to have more in the Latino community, is colorism, and just like the differences of the way that everyone navigates the world based on their pigment. But so yeah, I appreciate you bringing that up. But wow.
I remember, and this is a quick quickie, a cousin of mine being surprised because we had a close friend that came to New York and got married. And so the announcement back was that he married an American, right? So then they come back and he was black. And my cousin Maggie had a meltdown. Like, she said he was American. She said he was American. I'm like, yeah, he's American black.
Right.
But it was like they expected a blonde Ken looking guy, you know what I'm saying?
Mm,
A white a Ken looking guy versus a black man, just because
yeah.
of the word American, so.
Yeah.
And she was Dominican black, by the way, so they matched really nice together. They're still married.
Oh,
They're still married, so they
good.
did.
But yeah, just that like knee jerk reaction to like almost like freak out. It's like an anxiety thing, and it's so. What's that term that you mentioned it recently to me? But it's like protecting the race. What's that term, TT, in Spanish?
A mestiza?
No,
No, there's a term where it's like you're preserving the race.
bettering the race.
Oh, bettering the race.
Yeah,
Yeah.
social la raza.
No, mejorando la raza.
Yeah, bettering the race.
Mejorando la raza. That's
Yeah.
a big Dominican thing. Yeah.
And it
Mejora-
basically means, like, Amber, it basically means like you're protecting or preserving the race by like staying within your like racial group. Like, you want to get lighter and lighter as the generations go on. Crazy.
So,
Mejorando is
like,
to
the preference
better.
is to marry with like people who are lighter skinned Dominican. Okay, versus like
Yeah.
darker skin. Okay.
Yep.
Versus
Because,
darker.
yeah, so my perspective when I lived in the Dominican Republic, I'm the side. I mean, I own property there. I was there for a substantial amount of time. And Gary had mentioned this to me before, but once I got over it, I actually saw it. Their thing with that whole island of Hispaniola, where half of it's Haiti, half of it's Dominican Republic, and they really don't want the two to mix. So it's kind of like you had the Dominican side, was conquered by the Spaniards, and there's a lot of mixing there and that sort of thing, versus the Haitian side where the French kind of just owned slaves, and there was some, but not a substantial amount of mixing. So you've got one complexion on the west side of the island, the Haitians, and the other on the Dominican side. And Dominicans just don't want to really mix with Haitians, and very much like we have concerns with our immigration policy here in the U.S., they have huge ones there in the Dominican Republic, because Haiti's in so much turmoil. The easiest place for a lot of people to go is across the border, and it's not like the DR is really equipped to handle that. So they've historically been trying to keep the races separated, because the darker you look, it's like you must have Haitian blood type of thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So, yeah, I think even as Gary mentioned her family, she mentioned her dad being darker, but she mentioned him having Moroccan ancestry. Okay, but there's probably much more likelihood it's African ancestry from slavery that's in there. But okay, embrace that side. I get it. It's so yeah. There's a lot. So it was hard. I didn't realize how complicated it was until I started dating Gary. Because I think she was. Yeah, I think it was the only Latina I dated. Now I'm thinking about. I was gonna say first, and known after.
I have a non-race related question for you guys, which is, what is something that you love to do together?
Travel.
Travel.
We love traveling together. We really do. His personality changes in the island. He's a completely nice person. Not that he's not, but from A to Z, he relaxes. He's happy. He goes along with anything. Doesn't matter. Let's do it. So he's a great travel companion.
Getting out of the United States does that to somebody. I don't know how to describe it. As soon as I get into another country, it's like, oh wow, okay.
Yeah,
I don't have to. I can let down some of my guards I've had to have up all my life here. But yeah. But no, definitely traveling. Definitely traveling. We both love anywhere near the water, sand, movies. We both love to try different types of food. We love dining out different places. We don't really like going. It's not like we go to the same place all the time. It's always, let's do something different. Let's go somewhere else.
Yeah, we try different experiments. Yeah. Some are good, some are not so good.
Right.
That's cute. That's sweet though, that you're like always in pursuit of a new experience to have together. That's cute.
Yeah. We try.
And we like he'll read something, he'll share it with me. I'll read something, I'll share it with him. So we like sharing. We don't read the same newspapers, but he tells me, he keeps me up to date with the newspapers and what's going on. And
as in, Gary doesn't read a newspaper, and I read a newspaper. That's why we don't read the same newspaper.
Well, that's my favorite. I used to read the local paper when my kids were young, just to look for events, But I really got away from the paper when the world got crazy. That's how I look at it. But he tells me, he gives me the thing. But that's one of my favorite stories about you. Can I say that? Can I share it? This one. My cousin Anna, who passed, she was my soulmate. We didn't have to say anything. We just had to say one word and we knew what we were talking about, right? So when I met Glenn and she told me, and what does he read? Right? She asked me. I said, he reads the New York Times. And she goes,
and back then the Wall Street Journal.
And the Wall Street. Right. And she goes, good. Like that was her thing, But that's all we had to say over the phone. But and the reason why, because that's the issues I had with my ex, because he read comic books. And I hated that. And he read the New York Times and the Wall Street Journal. So that was it. All we had to say, that was our phone call. And I always remember that phone call because he goes, good. And she always loved Glenn. She loved Glenn. She really did. So
that's cute.
Great. When we were younger and my legs cooperated, dancing, things like that, we used to love doing. I still would enjoy it, but that's about all I can do right now, rocking the chair. It's just like
we went to our friend's 60th and we did we danced two and that was sat down and that was it. And usually we would dance all night before, but we both, I had my back and he had his knees, so
we found a way.
You're aging. It's okay. You're aging gracefully.
I know.
We're aging. That beats the alternative. Yes.
So thank you. Any other questions?
Yeah, no, I was gonna ask, because you mentioned something about like getting out of the country or leaving United States is so freeing. What are some of the countries that you've been that you just felt like totally at peace, like at ease in your travels?
Anywhere, frankly. So one of my favorite places to go, which is not very far from here, is Montreal. 3-hour drive up north. Soon as I cross the border, it's just, I just love it up there. It's just, everybody's more, first of all, we don't stick out.
Yeah.
We don't feel like, ooh, look at that. You don't, where you always feel so much of it here in the U.S.
But we've been to many islands.
Yeah, I mean, just about every Caribbean island, Mexico. Plus we went to Europe together as Paris, right?
Yeah, we went to Paris. Yeah. But I've been
traveling
by
myself. With a friend.
I've been traveling with my cousins. I had 3 years really that we did Europe all over, my cousins and I.
More than 3 trips.
But there was one, more than 3 trips, he says. Well, there was one that I that enjoyed because he wasn't there. I mean, the girls were fun, but it was like cruising the different islands in Greece.
What I heard was the other 4 were fine, but this one trip. But anyway.
Yeah, the other 4 were fine.
We're glad.
One time.
The other 4 were more like, your museums, your places. I know, places of interest. The other 4 were like that, or we did the food tours. We did a food tour where we went to different restaurants and all the girls in different drinking places. That was fun. But I didn't miss you. I missed you, but not miss you. But when I went to Greece and Malta and all those little islands of Italy and of Spain, like the island part of it, I'm like, I needed him there. Like every night, I was like, he should have been to this one. My uncles, I can't pronounce him, but he should have been there. Like all the places in Greece, he would love it. He would love it. We haven't done that trip because it is a 21-day trip, so it's a long vacation.
20.
Yeah, I did.
You deserve it. You should.
Yeah, y'all need to go. That sounds like a wonderful trip. Got taken
That
back.
was a wonderful. That was beautiful. And we landed in Italy, and then we went to all the islands, and then ended up in Barcelona. So it was really nice.
But Amber, to your question, again, whether it's Canada, I guess, whether it's any of the islands, Mexico, Canada, one went to Paris, all of those, it just felt like we were just part of the tapestry. It didn't seem like we were like sticking out somewhere, and we could just do what we wanted to do, and how we wanted to do it. And it's just, again, part of it. I shouldn't make it seem like it's just, but I. Sorry about that. I'm getting a little cold. I don't want to make it seem like it's just about getting out of the United States, but that is a big portion of it, because when we take vacations in the States, it's different. It's relaxing because you're out of work, but it's still, when we go out, it's still kind of the same.
Like Rhode Island.
Yeah, exactly.
We go to Rhode Island, Vermont, places like that.
Right.
You can
Which I love to go to. Right, great places to go to. But it's just, it's you're different. It's you could tell you're.
That brings me to one incident when this was originally when we first met, and I was there. I was there for business, I think, or conference, and Glenn stayed with me, and it was in the, what they call that place in New York City, Bowery, the bottom, like where South Street Seaport. We stayed at a hotel there. And as we were coming down, and we were dressed to go out for dinner, this woman that was in the elevator, like, just held on to her purse. And then we let the door close, and Glenn goes, and I go, what was that all about? And Glenn goes, welcome to my world. And that was the first time that I remember thinking, oh, wow, it was because of him but she acted like we were going to attack her. And I'm talking 23 years ago, 22 years, right? A lot of years ago.
Yeah, I don't know. And when you said it, that didn't stick out for me, but it truly is. That's, I mean.
And he said that.
It would be every day when I'm going to work. I work in this big office building. Every time I got up in the elevators, and some of these people would sit there and try to cringe into the corner, and it's like, okay, go on about our day, and then 2 hours later, I have to go meet with that same person who happened to be working for another firm, and it was just kind of like, oh yeah, that was me. That was which I always thought was shocking. If nothing else, because I was dressed. It wasn't like, but it didn't matter. It didn't matter what kind of suit I had on, how shiny my shoes were, how straight my tie was. I was an African American in upstate New York. They're like, yeah, something's not right here. This isn't something's wrong. I got to protect myself, or at least be on guard.
Yeah.
But
that happened to us together once in an elevator, and the woman looked shocked that we didn't even get on the elevator. We stayed out because she looked like we were going to attack her or something. She was having a meltdown.
For me, it'd be the other way. If I walked in the elevator and a Caucasian person didn't act that way, I'd be like, wow, this is different. That would stick out to me, because this is kind of like the status quo.
But I was never faced with that individually. Like
the only thing that was shocking about that, I don't remember that one, but because it's in the city. In the city, it shouldn't have shocked out anybody. Yeah, it was like, seriously?
It's like no matter where you are in the U.S., it's always possible.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Just what it is. But anyway.
I know.
No, I actually, I just thought that was interesting because you mentioned like Toronto, and then I know you all, I haven't been to a lot of places. I've been to like Canada, I've been to Toronto, and then I also, I also went to, am I muted? Oh no, I'm not. I also went to Paris when I was 18, and those are the two places that I can remember that I felt the most at ease. where I was. And like right now in the United States, like my husband and I, who my husband is white, we go camping a lot. And more recently we went camping and we were like far out in Colorado, like about 3 hours away from Denver. And it was definitely like Hickville where we were. It was beautiful out there and I love camping, but this is not like, especially in Colorado, something that I see a lot of like Black people doing. It like really hit me how out of place I felt. I'm so used to being like what you're saying, Glenn, like, you're so used to it, you don't even notice it sometimes. But I felt myself feeling like a little unsafe where we were because I was literally the only one. I mean, even within my family, I mean, I have biracial sons, but I was like a little nervous. I think we were gonna like go to the Walmart to get something in this little country mountain town. And my husband was like, "Well, do you want to go in and I'll wait in the car?" And I was like, "By myself without you?" I was scared. I was like legitimately afraid. I didn't feel at peace or at ease. I was like, "This is a Walmart in like this really country town. Like, am I going to be safe here?" And he was like, "Well, I saw," because he went in before me. He was like, "I saw a Black woman at the door." And I was like, "Okay," because he knew. He was like, "I know she's going to be scared." He's like, "I saw a Black woman at the door." I was like, "Okay, well, I guess I can go if you saw this one Black person." But I've noticed that like when I travel places that are like predominantly going to be like white people, I felt very uncomfortable even being with my white husband because I'm like, are there people going to have a problem with us? Are they going to have a problem with me? And I've never felt that way when I've traveled outside of the country. So that's interesting. So that just resonated with me. My next question is, what advice would you give? I'm married as well, as I said, and I've only been married for 4 years. We've been together for 7. But what advice would you give interracial couples who want to, stick this out together?
For me, I think it's one day at a time, and but both in house and out, because like sometimes like certain things like culturally are different too. That it's not just the skin, and you have to like clarify to me, what did you mean to say with that, or you hurt my feelings when you say that, because sometimes you don't realize, like for me as Latina, I talk too much, I whatever, I just say it, and then you're like have to remember that it's not the proper time, to say it, or the moment, or like, wait or relax. I remember his mother giving me the advice, that when he was upset, not to not to not to challenge him, just walk away. She told me, walk away, go to a corner, and he'll come back and say, I'm sorry. And he has done that. So that was a great advice from his mother. Like, don't challenge him. Just walk away, because he's a good man, and he'll realize that he's done wrong. And I think with him, he'll tell me, like he's my defender. I call him my defender. So with the family and stuff, like he keeps on, be strong, be strong. Or like when somebody's gonna call me, he'll say, they're gonna do this. So try to remember, like he'll warn me, because I'm a yes person. I'll volunteer. Like I'm starting a job tomorrow. And Glenn goes, just do your job and don't volunteer, because I volunteer for everything. That's my personality. So I need him for that. Like he's my support. Does it make sense? Like he keeps me strong. So both personality works. And like he said, when me talking too much, like I'm the one who makes the friends when we go out. And this is our thing. When we go on vacation, I go to the jacuzzi, I make the friends for the week, and then we have dinner with our friends. Then go to the group, because he won't make friends. Like on Facebook, he has one friend, me.
Be on Facebook. I'm only on Facebook for marketplace. Let's make it clear, to buy things, to buy cars. Only reason I'm on there.
So that's how we kind of like, we take each other's weakness, and we try to help each other with that. Like for him, it's keeping me strong. For me, it's trying to make, like, our friends that we go out with, it originally came from me. I met them. I like them. I thought Glenn might like them, and then I introduced him to him. But if I think he's not gonna like him, we're not gonna do it, because it's not gonna work. So, what's yours?
He like grounds you in a place where, like, I feel like Glenn grounds you so that you can take care of other people. Like he takes care of you and you
Right?
take
He
care of
does.
everyone else.
He
It's
does. He
beautiful.
does. He takes care of me. He does. He's always protecting me. Everything I do.
Hmm.
Sometimes he irritates me, but I know he's doing it because he cares.
Hmm.
Yeah. So go ahead.
Yeah, so my advice wouldn't be, it's not really a racially rooted piece of advice, because I think this is going to be the same thing in any relationship, regardless. I can't, I really can't, I can't answer your question based on race. How should you have a relationship based on an interracial relationship? Are there going to be challenges because you have an interracial? Easy for me to say. Interracial relationship? Absolutely. But there's challenges in every damn relationship. So there's nothing that I would think that, because every relationship has so many bumps in the road and opportunities for things to go the wrong way. I would say just kind of focus on what your needs are, what your partner's needs are, and try to make sure that they're all being met. Obviously, you can't be totally selfish and make sure it's all about me and nothing about them, but you don't want to give up yourself as well, because I think while that might work short term, I think long term that would destroy a relationship. So you just got to be you and let your partner be them, and you know, 1 and 1 adds up to 3, because the two people will be a lot stronger than they would be individually. So mathematically, that makes no sense, but anybody who's in a relationship understands how, two people can have a hell of a foundation. So yeah, with each other. So yeah, again, nothing unique to being for me being in a interracial marriage, in a racial relationship. It's just, again, making sure that both of your needs are met.
Yeah. And that makes sense too. It's not like you guys wake up every morning and remind each other, you're Black, you're Hispanic.
Hello, wait. Whoa, what is that? Wait. What is it?
It makes sense. Totally checks out that's not going to be the focal point of your marriage, for 23 years together. So, well, that's beautiful. Well, we've certainly enjoyed hearing your story and think that our listeners will too. Something that we do to close out each episode is we set an intention for the week ahead. So something that we are hoping to do in the next week. It could also be something you're looking forward to, but that's kind of how we typically end our podcast. So Amber, do you want to start with your intention?
Yeah. I would say my intention is I'm going to take Lynn's advice as far as for relationship advice. I'm going to take that because I don't think race has anything to do with it. I think that it's just sometimes you get to like these rough patches, I believe, in your relationship, in your marriage, when you've been with somebody for so long. And I'm sure you both could attest to that. And I love that you said, like, you have to be able to let that person be who they are and and be who you are. And I want to like really like be intentional. I'm so sorry about the background. I really want to be intentional about making sure that I'm honoring that in my relationship, in my marriage. So thank you for that advice.
Oh, that's nice.
It's nice. And what about you, Tio and TG? What are your intentions for this week?
Well, mine is not to volunteer for anything on the first.
I agree with that. I agree. Don't you do it. Back to your pay grade.
I'm gonna do my job and see what my job is. I have no idea. I know I have an idea because it's training, but like, are they expecting from me, and not volunteer for anything the first week? That's all I can promise. The first week. How about you, honey?
What I'm interested. I'm not gonna say that in the recording. Yeah, I am gonna say that in the recording. You can edit this out. I am going to try to find a way to make sure my wife gets up each morning to get to work on time.
I've been getting up at 11:30 since I've been retired for 3.5 years, so this is gonna be different.
My baby operates on island time.
Yeah, she does.
Before having been retired for a few years, so to get back on the clock, which I do my best to help support her with getting back on a time-focused schedule. Yeah.
I know.
I love that.
Let's see. The first day they told me I have to be there at 9:45. I said, "Oh, I can do that."
That's pretty late. 9:45 is not bad.
Yeah, 9:45. So I'm like, "Oh, I like that."
What's the regular time?
I have no idea yet.
Hopefully it's 9. Hopefully it's 10 every day. Well, what beautiful intentions that you guys all have. I will say mine is like perhaps in the opposite direction. I want to have fun.
There you go. There you go.
I'm entering this new phase of my life where I'm like, I'm tired of being so serious all the time. Like, it served me well, I guess. Like, but now I'm like, I'm, gonna turn 28 in like 10 days. And like,
Wow.
that's so young.
I know.
Why do I act like I'm so old? Like, that's so young.
Do you have the summer off with this school or no?
No, unfortunately not. But yeah, I just want to have fun. Well, thank you so much for joining us on the Mixtapes. We are the Mixtapes podcast. You can follow, like, and subscribe to us on Instagram, YouTube, and Spotify. And if you or anyone you know is interested in joining us for an interview, please click on the Calendly link in the description to join us. But it's been a pleasure to have you on. Thank you so much. And thank you all for listening.
Thank you.